Oh, yeah. I know them all. Ready? Nope.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting of the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District Board of Trustees to order for December 2nd, 2021. Ask the Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Sulik? Here. Mayor DeGeeter present. Mayor Bocci?
Present.
Ms. Dumas?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ralli?
Here.
President Brown?
Here.
Got a quorum.
Thank you. Now I ask for the approval of the minutes from our November 18, 2021 meeting.
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Motion by Mayor Bocci.
Second.
Second by Mr. Joyce. Is there a question? There's no question. The minutes will stand approved as they are printed. Now ask the Chief Executive Officer if anybody has signed up to speak during the public session portion of our agenda on a specific agenda topic.
They have not, Mr. President.
Thank you. Then we will have your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Beginning with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we have 7 active cases among district employees. This brings us to 126 confirmed positive cases since the beginning of the pandemic, with 119 folks recovered and returned to work. We have 3 employees with COVID-like symptoms awaiting their test results and no employees remaining at home because a member of their household has tested positive. Last week, at their November 22nd meeting, Cleveland Heights City Council unanimously provided their concurrence with our recommendation to remove Horseshoe Lake Dam and restore Doan Brook. With this concurrence, Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights are on board with our recommendation. We have received 11 proposals for this project, which have been reviewed by the scoring committee, and interviews are being scheduled as the next step in that process. The scoring committee includes employees from Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights, with the majority of the 11 members being district employees. We will also open the final consultant interviews to up to 6 representatives each, selected by the cities of Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights, and these interviews are set for mid-December. We have contracted with Land Studio to help facilitate this external involvement, and as you know, Land Studio has provided this service for many large-scale public projects. While this external involvement is part of our overall public engagement for this project, the selection of the consultants will be made by district staff with a recommendation to you all for approval, as is the case with all district projects. And we've detailed those guidelines and expectations for the external participants, and they're going through a training with Land Studio and our staff about all the ins and outs of public procurement processes and professional services on December 10th. So that's the update on Horseshoe Lake and the Doan Brook restoration. And then finally, I want to recognize Pauletta Hubbard, our Manager of Customer Service, and Raquel Gregory, our Billing and Program Specialist, who were featured in this very shortly named document, Building Blocks of Trust, Creating Authentic and Equitable Relationships Between Community Organizations and Water Utilities. You see our customer service team there in the upper right. This report was developed by the River Network and the Water Now Alliance, who are 2 national nonprofit organizations, and they focused on examples across the country of partnerships between community organizations and water utilities that yield great projects for both entities. So Pauletta and Raquel participated with our colleagues from CHN Housing Partners to tell the story of how we're working together to increase scope and participation in our affordability program. So big thanks to customer service. Representation from top to bottom. It was a whole team effort. That's my report, President Brown.
All right, great. Thank you for that update. Certainly want to add our congratulations for that work that was done. Affordability program is something that we believe is really something we have to optimize within our service area to make sure that those that can and should have the opportunity to participate get the news and then get kind of a prescribed method of how to do so. So I appreciate the collaboration on that part. My only other comment would be on the dam structure itself. While you were kind of naming the folks that will be participating in the process, it might be helpful if someone from the city of Cleveland, in particular the Public Works Department, might also figure out how you might engage them, since the city of Cleveland is the property owner and has long-term leases for the use, and also is the signatory to the emergency response plan. Just so that they know what is happening as the process moves forward might make sense as well.
Yes, we will do that. Frank, do you want to add anything at this point on that, or we're good?
No, we'll get together with you, just need a contact, and, we'll make contact and bring them up to speed as to where we're at, where the process is going. We're going to make a selection, just outline schedule, activities, and the like.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. No other question for the CEO? Now we'll go to our action items, please. Let's start with authorization to advertise, beginning with request for authorization to publish notice calling for bids in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 6119.10 for Easterly PLC replacement project with an anticipated expenditure of $9,800,000.
Motion to adopt 376-21.
Motion by Mr. Joyce. Second by Mr. Sulik. Question, just if you could, just an indication of where this puts us in this program process. I know that all of those PLC was a program logic controllers are old and outdated, and I'm imagining that because we're putting new technology in, it'll give us some new capabilities, et cetera. So if you could kind of give us an overview of what we're getting at with this phase of the program.
Yeah, good afternoon, President Brown, members of the board. Yes, this is a program. We've already completed the updates at Westerly plant of the PLCs. We are now proceeding with the updates at the Easterly plant. And then in the near future, we'll be coming back to the board for similar updates at our Southerly plant and in the collection system. In addition to replacing this obsolete equipment, we will have significant benefits to operations and maintenance. That includes providing more reliable equipment that obviously reduces the likelihood of failure. With these improvements, we're also improving the operator interface. This is the computer screens they use, as well as the data that they see on those machines, to better support their day-to-day operations of the system, as well as just the automated controls that are related to it. It will also provide better documentation with the labeling of the system, both the equipment and the wiring. This will also improve ease of maintenance when we do have to do maintenance on the system. And then we'll also, with these improvements, implement runtime tracking. This too helps maintenance operations, as previous maintenance was all based just on calendar days, whereas this will allow us to base that maintenance on how often the equipment is actually used. And then just a general overall improvement is that it makes all equipment across the plants the same, which has an ease in regards to we have people transferring from plant to plant.
Okay. I think that helps me. I appreciate that explanation. Thank you. If there are no other questions, without objection, it's approved.
Resolution 376-21.
Thank you. Let's go authorization to issue requests for proposals. Let's start with request for authorization to issue an RFP in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Chapter 6119 for energy procurement professional consultant services. Also request for authorization to issue an RFP in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Chapter 6119 for radiation consulting services to maintain compliance with district's Ohio Department of Health radioactive materials license and to support current and future capital improvement program projects.
Move for adoptions of Resolution 77 and 7821.
Motion by Mayor Lai,
Second.
second by Ms. Dumas. Questions, if you could briefly, on 37721. This presupposes that we do have a renewable energy strategy, and as you know, as we talked during the briefing, renewable energy costs, depending on what it is, in many respects can save you money, but in many respects it could also cost you more money depending on what it is and how we're approaching it. So if you might address that for me, and then with 378, as I understand it, this is further action on the Cobalt 60 that is in existence and has been in existence at these facilities for a while. So if you could kind of tell me where we are in that process, realizing that I guess this product has a life cycle, and every 5 to 6 years it half-life. So I'm just trying to understand where we are in terms of when we'll be somewhat able to be free of this contaminated product, if you will.
Go ahead, Ken.
Okay. Good afternoon, President Brown, members of the board. In response to your question to 37721, the purpose of this RFP is twofold. We're looking for a consultant who will, one, help us with our upcoming procurement of energy. So our current contract for energy for the Southerly plant, this GJM building and other outlying facilities is up in May. So this consultant will help us with that. This consultant will also help us develop a green energy strategy. The district has been able to take advantage of some green energy opportunities in the past, but it is a dynamic and changing market. So we're looking for a consultant with expertise who can help us come up with a long-term plan to best incorporate green energy in a fiscally responsible manner that may or may not be incorporated in this next energy procurement. But this is a long-term strategy that we would look to employ, that we would look for expertise for.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, John, punch up the slide. There is cobalt 60 contamination in various areas of Southerly and the Easterly treatment plant. We hold a license from the Ohio Department of Health to deal with that material. We have steadily been removing facilities to lessen our reliance, under this ODH license. This is a renewal contract for the next couple of years to provide outside expertise to allow us to meet our requirements. We have an ongoing Southerly demolition project that's going to remove structures that are part of this Cobalt 60 issue. That lessens our responsibilities going forward. If you go by half-life, we're talking 2048. But we don't think we're talking 2048.
Okay.
We have been removing facilities steadily over time. Robin Halperin's group manages that contract. We've already removed certain facilities, the north-south fill areas at Southerly, fill areas at Easterly are next, and there is potential to start removing those facilities in the near term. It is our hope that in the next couple of years we'll substantially remove, if not eliminate, our requirements under the ODH license. So this just gets us the next few years and helps manage projects and meet requirements.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, without objection, they're approved.
Resolutions 377 and 378-21.
Thank you. Let's go to authorization to enter into agreement. Starting with request for authorization to enter into restoration and asset transfer agreement, City of Cleveland for district's construction of restroom facility on property owned by the city of Cleveland located at Cleveland and Area Soapbox Derby Racetrack, and for the transfer of long-term maintenance responsibilities for the facility to the city as part of the final restoration for Westerly Tunnel Dewatering Pump Station project. And I probably should take that separate from the other.
Move to adopt 37921.
A motion by Mr. Sulik.
Second.
Second by Mr. Joyce. Question? No question. I'm going to ask for a roll call, please.
Mayor DeGeeter, yes. Mayor Bocci.
Yes.
Ms. Dumas.
Abstain.
Mr. Joyce.
Yes.
Mayor Alagi.
Yes.
President Brown.
Abstain?
Mr. Sulik.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's continue. Request for authorization to enter into professional services agreement with Brown and Caldwell for the Southerly Second Stage Aeration Improvements Project in amount not to exceed $5,449,151. And request for authorization to enter into a professional services agreement with Robert P. Madison International, Inc. for Easterly Stockroom Relocation Project in amount not to exceed $952,127.90.
Move to adopt 380 and 381-21.
Motion by Mr. Joyce,
Second.
second by Mayor Alai. Question? There's no question. Without objection, they're approved.
Resolutions 380 and 381-21.
Thank you. Let's go to authorization to amend agreement. All right, let's go. We're starting with request for authorization to amend agreement number 1900361 with WGL Energy Services, Inc., WGL, for electricity procurement to authorize the district to pay transmission charges for Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant directly to WGL pursuant to Public Utility Commissions of Ohio's PUCO. Approval of the district's application to participate in First Energy non-market-based rider opt-out pilot, and for WGL to assume the responsibility of billing, collecting, and remitting to Regional Transmission Organization, PJM, the transmission charges that will be removed from First Energy's billings with no change in the agreement amount. Let's see. Also request for authorization to amend agreement number 2003679 with Solution Technologies LLC for radiation consultant services for increasing the agreement amount by $500,000, thereby bringing the total agreement amount to not to exceed $1 million. Also, authorization to amend agreement number 1800124 with Governmental Policy Group, Inc. for state advocacy services to exercise the third one-year option to renew the agreement for year 2022 in an additional amount not to exceed $72,000 for an amended total agreement amount not to exceed $360,000.
Move to adopt 382 through 384-21.
Motion by Ms. Dumas.
Second.
Second by Mayor Bocci. Question, just if you could, either now or in the future, I'd like to get some understanding on this 384. This is another one of those advocacy services that we have, and from time to time, I think it's good for us to get some understanding as to the benefit that we're receiving as a result of engaging these parties to represent us at various levels of government. So,
President Brown, if you'd like, we do have a brief I'm assuming it's brief. It's nice and brief. Brief presentation. I mean, it's brief-ish, but I do have to say that, and Eric will go through this. He's put together some very nice slides that they have done an incredible amount of work. As you all know, 2021 has been a very active year. So, to your request, if it's okay now to run through this, it's very topical in terms of the amount of work that they've done for us this year.
as long as you said, like you said, it's brief.
Okay.
20 minutes, no more. So, President Brown, members of the board, Governmental Policy Group is our state advocacy firm in Columbus, and this is a request to exercise the third one-year option following the initial 2 years of the contract. Attached to your resolution request in your packets is a document that provides a lot of detail on their work over the last year, but I wanted to just hit some highlights here. First is the coordination with our Legislative Affairs Manager, Danielle Gianantonio, who's joining us here today. With respect to that effort, they're really good at providing real-time updates on General Assembly and executive activity in Columbus. It's not uncommon for us to get texts and calls in the middle of committee meetings to keep us updated on what's going on. They also really work well with Danielle to coordinate engagement with officials and assist in arranging meetings with legislators and the executive branch officials. And they, of course, participate in those meetings with us. Legislative status reports, guidance on advocacy timing and strategy is really critical. Sometimes there are issues that we want to advocate on or not advocate on, and there's a right time and a wrong time. And so they're really good about helping us with that. Moving on to funding, as you know, regional districts have not been directly eligible for the federal COVID relief funding, such as CARES and ARPA dollars. GPG worked closely with lawmakers and the DeWine administration to ensure that 6119 districts and stormwater utilities were eligible to receive those funds when they would be distributed through the state. Ohio's share of those federal funding sources could be used really for various purposes, which allow the state decision-making authority on how and where to appropriate those dollars. GPG advocated that CARES funding be used to fund qualified low-income assistance customers, ultimately helping direct millions of dollars to the Home Relief Grant Program. And then much of the first part of 2021 was spent working with policymakers to dedicate $100 million of that ARPA funds in the state operating budget to regional districts like us that we could use directly for our projects. And the thinking was that they could be used to pass through on to MCIP-like local system projects. Now, we worked with LSC to draft that amendment, tried to get it through. It ultimately did not go through. But while we didn't get that $100 million for our districts, what that discussion did do was it led to the foundation that led to the $250 million water and wastewater infrastructure grant program that could be used by all of the political subdivisions. And that was ARPA money, and that was created in House Bill 168. We've submitted 6 projects for funding through that program. We're still waiting to hear back. GPG helped us find answers to questions as that process was rolling out on the application process and the eligibility. They really worked with us on that process and Danielle to get those submitted into the state. I do want to pause for just a second and recognize Danielle's work on those applications. You know, they were a really huge effort, and there was a timeline to get those in early. And, you know, she completed them while she was traveling on vacation. We do appreciate that. She wasn't alone, though. It was a real team effort to pull that together. Devana's team, particularly Andrea Remius, really helped out. Frank's team and Janet Popielski, Ken's team with Brandon, who's here, all really pitched into that team effort, so I appreciate all of their help with that. On to monitoring and actively lobbying. During 2021, GPG was monitoring over 70 bills in the General Assembly on our behalf. Much of their efforts were directed at opposing some particular pieces of negative legislation that could have impacted us. Just a couple of the examples here. Sharing concerns with the sponsor of House Bill 385, which would increase penalties on municipal wastewater systems and have the potential to prevent NPDES permits from being issued by Ohio EPA. Another was coordinating with stakeholders and meeting with legislators on 2 bills that would prevent us from certifying our delinquent charges. And then the third example was House Bill 327, where we really talked to lawmakers about the impact of that bill, which would prohibit political subdivisions from training or discussions about what the bill refers to as divisive concepts. So that one you've probably are aware of. We've been having good conversations on that as well. And lastly, just moving on to the legislative and administrative context, while our staff, a number of folks here in the room, all have strong relationships with the Northeast Ohio delegation, the district relies on GPG to use its longstanding relationships with other members of the General Assembly. Just as an example, the debate over the state's operating budget kind of focuses in the finance committees in the House and the Senate. There's 33 of those members in the House and 13 in the Senate. Relatively few of those members have Northeast Ohio ties, so GPG really used its connections with those folks to cultivate the relationships and help share the district's needs before the full votes on that committee. Just the last thing I want to mention is that GPG is really at the forefront of educating members of the General Assembly and the Governor's Office about the value of regional districts, sewer, stormwater issues, and particularly our work as it relates to our area in Lake Erie. They really also help enhance the district's reputation among policymakers as a national leader and expert in sewer and stormwater issues. So that effort's really working because we do receive technical and legal questions from Columbus about these types of issues. And whenever the General Assembly convenes interested party meetings about sewer, stormwater management issues, or other local government issues, they know that GPG needs to be in the room. And that consistency is really why we're looking to extend this contract one more year here and continue to reap those benefits. So that's my report.
All right. Thank you for that overview. And any other?
Mr. President, I was going to save my comments for the good of the order part of the meeting, but this morning the mayors and managers, Cuyahoga County and Northeast Ohio mayors, met this morning, and Danielle was there updating us. So I saw that advocacy in action this very morning, and I want to thank her. And Matt Sharver was there as well. So great work, and it's apropos to bring that up now. They do awesome work in informing all of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate those insights. There are no other question and comment, then without objection, they're approved.
Resolutions 382 through 384-21.
Thank you. Let's go to authorization to ratify expenditure. Let's start with ratification of expenditures in the amount of $24,450 under professional service agreement number 16001846 with Pradco for professional model development and security guard pre-hire assessment services in excess of the existing $26,750 not to exceed agreement amount. Also, ratification of expenditures in amount of $2,000 under the master service agreement with AT&T Wireless for telecommunications services in excess of the existing $160,000 not to exceed amount authorized, and reduction of $2,000 in the existing $570,800 not to exceed amount authorized under Federal Government Services Administration contract for Verizon Wireless for an amended not to exceed amount authorized of $568,800 with no change to the total not to exceed amount authorized of $738,800.
Move to adopt 385 and 386-21.
Motion by Mr. Sulik.
Second.
Second by Ms. Dumas. Question? There's no question. Without objection, they're approved.
Resolutions 385 and 386-21.
Very much. All right, and now my favorite part, the agenda.
Favorite.
Property-related transactions. I guess we'll take the first one alone. So let's do 374-21. That's a request for authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Southwest Enforcement Bureau, SEB, to allow the SEB to store equipment at district-owned property known as permanent parcel numbers 521-16-001 and 521-16-004 located at 4700 East 49th Street in the village of Cuyahoga Heights with total consideration of $1.
Move to adopt 374-21.
Motion by Ms. Dumas,
Second.
Second by Mr. Zulik. Is there a question? If there's no question, I'm going to ask for a roll call, please, on this.
Mayor Bocci.
Abstain.
Ms. Dumas.
Yes.
Sure. Double sure.
Making him sweat.
After a question. Mr. Choice.
Yes.
Mayor Ali.
Abstain.
President Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Sulik.
Yes.
Mayor DeGeeter abstain. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mayor
on behalf
Bocci.
of all the sub-chiefs, I'd like to thank the board as well as the CEO for getting this done for them.
Very good. Thank you.
Even Ms. Dumas's hesitation was
Duly
Drama.
noted. Duly noted.
Noted. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Let's go to request for authorization, acquire one permanent stormwater easement, one temporary easement at the property known as permanent parcel number 48914-063, located at 8053 Thornhurst Drive in the city of North Wilton, owned by Patricia O. Pelt, necessary for construction and maintenance of Big Creek flood reduction near Sprague Road project, and with total consideration of $4,500. Request for authorization to acquire one temporary easement at the property known as permanent parcel number 453-24003, located at 4850 Sprague Road in the city of Parma, owned by Constance M. Pitts, necessary for construction of Big Creek flood reduction near Sprague Road project with total consideration of $2,000. Request for authorization to acquire one permanent stormwater easement at property known as permanent parcel number 771-12012, located at 4829 Derbyshire Drive in the village of North Randall, owned by Richard F. and Wendy Capolino, necessary for construction and maintenance of Bear Creek Culvert Improvements Project, total consideration $1,200. Request for authorization to acquire one permanent stormwater easement, one temporary easement at property known as permanent parcel number 771-12013, located at 4835 Derbyshire Drive in the village of North Randall, owned by James A. Thompson, necessary for construction and maintenance of Bear Creek Culvert Improvement Project, total consideration of $1,700. Request for authorization to acquire one temporary easement at the property known as permanent parcel number 771-12014, located at 4841 Derbyshire Drive in the village of North Randall, owned by Mary Ann Mullen, also known as Mary Ann Marcine Mullen, necessary for construction of Bear Creek Culvert Improvements Project with total consideration of $300. And then finally, request for authorization to acquire one parcel in the fee simple known as permanent parcel number 489-015, located at 6300 Bunker Road in the city of North Wilton, owned by Andre N. Young, trustee of Andre Young Trust, dated June 13, 2006, necessary for construction and maintenance of the BCSWMP problem area one stream restoration upstream of Bunker Road in our project, to enter into a lease agreement with Ms. Young and to allow for the entirety of the payment plus closing costs to be dispersed to North Star Title Services LLC with total consideration of $53,000 plus closing costs.
Move resolutions 387 through 39221, Mr. President, sir.
Motion by Mayor Bocci.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sulik. Question, I have to ask. So 39221, I'm sure is another one of those wonderful acquisition, demolition structures in somebody's floodplain that we're trying to do, right the wrongs of the sins of the past and create floodplain, if you would. So
Right. This is along the Big Creek main branch. It's in North Royalton. You can see the acquisition outlined in yellow. You can see the proximity of the stream to the house. The interesting thing about this is the intersection of of the regional stormwater system, which is Big Creek, with local stormwater drainage. And there are local issues as well. So we are working cooperatively right now with North Royalton to work through alternatives to deal with both issues, the regional and the local issues. So there's some pre-design activities going on now between the two groups, all of which involve the acquisition of this property to create some floodplain. There is flooding and erosion issues, as we've talked about many areas before. So that's what this one is about.
Okay. No other question? Without objection, they are approved.
Resolutions 387 through 392-21.
Thank you. Okay, let's go. Authorization for bond defeasance. This is authorizing the execution of bond defeasance utilizing available cash on hand in an amount not to exceed $31 million for the 2049 maturity of the Series 2014 bonds currently outstanding, previously issued for purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving water resource projects.
Move to adopt 393-21.
Motion by Mr. Joyce.
Second.
Second by Mayor Alai. Just if you could, just out of curiosity, I'm sure we're using this instrument for a particular reason, so I'm imagining it has something to do with cost savings. So if you could maybe just tell us what we gain by doing this, just for the record.
Yes, President Brown. So you are correct. It's a part of our ongoing financial planning. We worked with our financial advisor, Baker Tilly, to look at ways to continue to impact rates, minimize debt service. This $31 million defeasance will retire $27,420,000 of outstanding 2014 bonds. The savings associated with that will be approximately $1 million a year in debt service savings, about $28 million total in debt service avoided through this transaction.
Very good, sir. Happy to hear that. So I don't think anybody objects to that, do we?
Mr. Chair, there should be a piece for his raise, but
Well, he wouldn't argue that either, so I'm sure. All right, if there's no other question, we're happy to approve.
Resolution 393-21.
Thank you. All right, let's go. Finally, hey, this is it. Authorization to amend a resolution. This is authorization to amend resolution number 36921, adopted November 18, 2021, which authorized the district to enter into loan agreement with Ohio EPA and the Ohio Water Development Authority to accept WPCLF funding for construction costs related to the Shoreline Storage Tunnel project for an amount up to $201,580,000 to instead authorize the issuance of a bond of the district in a principal amount not to exceed $201,580,000 for the sale to Water Pollution Control Loan Fund of the State of Ohio to finance the cost of improvements to the district's wastewater system, pledging certain revenues from the district's wastewater system on subordinated basis to secure the payment of the principal of and interest on the bond, and authorizing the execution and delivery of the bond and the trust agreement and other documents, and taking other actions related to the issuance and sale of the bond. Who writes this?
move to adopt 369A-21.
Motion by Ms. Dumas, second by Mayor Bocci. And yes, it says right here on my explain and a big question mark, please.
Yes, President Brown, members of the board. This resolution, as we move forward with our application process, as you may recall at the last meeting, the board approved moving forward with the loan agreement for the Shoreline Storage Tunnel loan, a structured loan, which we had not utilized before. As we move forward in that loan process, OWDA informed us that there needed to be a slightly different form to the resolution associated with this transaction. It needed to be more in the form of the district issuing a bond to OWDA. In reality, this is just an administrative change in terms of the paperwork. This is still going to be the same type of structured loan I described at the last meeting with OWDA for the shoreline tunnel, and all the other terms are similar to as I described. It's an administrative requirement for us to move forward with this structured loan format with OWDA.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. No other question? Then without objection, it is approved.
Resolution 369A-21.
Thank you very much. That does conclude our action items. Let's go information items. Oh, one of my favorites. They have information technology. Now, did you tell him the same thing?
Mohan and I have a standing agreement. It's a very good presentation. Again, as with advocacy services, we've had a lot of work in information technology, so I'll turn it over to you, Mohan.
Hi, Mohan.
Good afternoon, President Brown, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
So this is the second information technology update for the year 2021. Last one was in June. This year, I'm going to cover some of the completed, in-process, and future projects that we have in IT. We'll talk briefly about information security, IT service performance, some process improvements that we've made in IT, and then we'll review metrics to how IT is doing for the district. On the board right now are a number of infrastructure upgrade projects. These are various things like the servers that store the software, things we use to configure machines, the software that manages the badge readers at all of the locations at the district, and a server that allows contractors who work with the district to manage their passwords and their accounts. A lot of these things don't have a direct impact or are noticeable by the customers that they serve, internal and external. But it's extremely important that we update them so that we stay within support for our vendors, for cybersecurity so that all patches or relevant updates are done, and for additional functionality as it may come out. We have a network infrastructure upgrade project, which basically is replacing a lot of our network equipment that is out of date. It's quite a large project. It's underway. It's mostly routers and equipment like that. We have faced some problems with supply chain and getting equipment delivered from Cisco, so we have a delay of maybe 5 to 10 months. However, we are covered under support agreements, and the team has been working to bypass pieces of equipment that are no longer supported. So we're moving forward with that. The enterprise wireless project is something I talked about in June as something we were going to do. At that time, we had wireless support in EMSC and GJM. This project updated the servers, the access points, the software for the existing system and expanded the coverage to the other treatment plants. So all facilities have some wireless access now, especially in the administrative areas. Additionally, the training center and the renewable energy facility were also added to that. This gives us the backbone to put wireless anywhere we need to at the request of the plants. So if we have a piece of hardware or software that requires wireless, it's a small matter to put up an access point and plug it into the existing infrastructure. So it gives us a lot of room for growth. The OnBase implementation is also something I talked about as upcoming in June. It has been completed for legal. So this is the software that allows them to consolidate information about legal matters, puts it into a central location, secures it, allows it to be searched easily, much preferable to having pieces of data in the email system, et cetera, and then putting it into a file directory, which is not easily searchable. So I think they're going to see a lot of benefit out of this. This project was two parts. It was supposed to be the legal implementation followed closely by the accounts payable implementation. We've paused the accounts payable implementation because we're having some discussions with the vendor about the cost for licensing. So as soon as we resolve that or come to a determination that another solution would be more cost efficient for AP, we'll move forward. The CMMS-EBS Interface. CMMS is the software that TSG is implementing to replace Oracle WAM. And part of that implementation was the interface with the Oracle EBS system. We built that interface in IT. It's up, it's active, it's stable. We used a platform called Dell Boomi, which is integration platform as a service, which is very nice because we can reuse this platform for any other future integrations that we may have with the EBS system, and we don't have to start from scratch and build code, and the support is just a lot simpler. DEI Dashboard, the TAP refers to the Tuition Assistance Program. So this is sort of a prototype for us to give some reporting to the business on how, in this case, money is being spent in the Tuition Assistance Program. It's built in the Oracle Apex dashboard internally by our staff. It provides real-time spend data for employee education. And I have a screenshot. Just an example, for current fiscal year TAP reimbursements, you can break it down by different demographics. What departments are using money in TAP, what different salary grade employees are utilizing TAP, breakdown by gender, ethnic origin, degree programs that are being pursued. This allows management to better manage our resource, our people, and how these things are. It will benefit the DEI program, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the long vision of this is we did it for a single program, TAP. We will expand this functionality to other systems within the district so that we have more robust reporting across the board for this information to help us make decisions. The gauge-adjusted rainfall radar project was a project that IT partnered with Watersheds. George Remus has been managing this for quite some time. What we did was originally we had about 400 square miles covered with 30 rain gauges at the district. Not a lot of granularity. Since about 2016, George and his team have been receiving data from NOAA, or the National Weather Service, with this adjusted rainfall data. It's called adjusted because we take the district rain gauges and we move the data up and down. That was coming in every month. It was a snapshot. It had all the days in it, but it's very hard to go through. What this project did was put it into the data warehouse so that it can be sliced and diced. And so instead of 400 square miles and 30 rain gauges, what we started out with quite some time ago, now we have about 3,400 grids of 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, which equals 1,300 square miles, which covers the area we serve. And it can be sliced and diced, and we get a lot more detail. So what are they planning to use this technology for? Well, we can develop reports for different areas, neighborhoods, watersheds, subwatersheds. We can look at rain events individually. Potentially, they can deploy swim maintenance teams based on some of this data. So it'll be very useful, and we'll be able to provide data to our communities at request. So just technology assisting what was already a very good program to make it a lot more usable. For the audit department, we implemented a piece of software from Galvanized. Now the company is called Diligent. They just went through a name change. And it is an end-to-end solution for managing the audit process. The graphic kind of talks about some of the data that's in there, the different regulations and standards that we follow, like NIST and COSO, the policies, the risks and the remediations and the progress we make on them. So the product that this replaced was not as flexible and had some problems. I think in talking with the audit team, they're happy with this. They're concentrating on finance and IT right now, but they'll start rolling other departments into it very heavily, and it will help us manage our risks and avoid problems down the road. The affordability cost savings program tracking is our effort to take data from our data warehouse about our customers and our ratepayers and push it into the Salesforce system, which is used by the customer service reps. What that's going to allow us to do, it'll give the customer service reps a lot more information about customers as they interact with them, things like who's eligible for cost savings program, et cetera. But right now, we can give a look at how many people are enrolled in that program. What this is going to allow us to do is give us participation history. So the past, the gains and losses of people who are enrolled in those programs so that the team can more actively manage that. Some upcoming projects. 2 projects for HR, the case management implementation, either UKG or another solution to provide better service, and the performance management implementation. I got to correct one thing on the slide. They're not using paper currently. It's Excel spreadsheets, all electronic, but we'd like to have it in the HR system so that it's all in one location. And the electronic bidding solution, as we put out bids for the district, having one solution where all the paperwork, all the documents, all the supporting information from all the different vendors is put in one system and easily looked through, as opposed to everyone emailing it in and then department people classifying it and grading it and looking at it. One of the largest projects we have coming up is the Oracle EBS project. It's been some time since we upgraded to the latest version. We've put out the RFP as authorized by the board. We had about 10 companies come to look at it. Tomorrow is the deadline for submissions, so I expect that to be a large activity that encompasses a lot of the IT department as well as the other departments that use the system, so that we can make sure any additional functionality that they need is put into it. Information Security Work Group continues to work. We develop policies. It's cross-departmental, HR, legal, O&M. Almost every department participates in the repeating meetings. We develop policies. Right now, the activity we're looking at is recommending security training for the district for 2022. Last year, we implemented a little different. Instead of just one set of training everyone has to take, we looked at their function, like if they're in finance or HR, and recommended some additional training, and it made it more specialized. And we continue to refine our disaster recovery plans as well. This is just a graphic of the load of tickets that have come in the last 3 years. The workload has been quite steady. We saw the spike during the pandemic time when people had to change the way they worked, but things are getting back to normal. And change requests, we have a lot more analytical capability and audit capability. As you can see in the far right, all the different areas that we execute change, we track, et cetera. Process improvements, we're always upgrading devices, laptops, desktops, removing old operating systems, improving employee productivity. I mentioned the ZenWorks upgrade to better manage devices. One big thing that we did accomplish was an Active Directory change. We increased the complexity requirements for every Active Directory account at the district, over 800. And it was done in a very organized fashion with minimum fuss, but that will improve the security of the district quite a bit. Customer service satisfaction. The last 2 years, we've been collecting metrics. Every case that comes into the help desk, a survey goes out, and we measure 4 areas: overall satisfaction, customer service, communication, and timeliness. We set a goal for 4.85 out of 5 for the IT department. And as of right now, we are averaging 4.9 out of 5 for the overall information technology satisfaction. That's a dashboard that shows it. The other areas are all over 4.9 as well. So I'd say it's pretty good. It reflects on the entire IT department. It's not just a help desk, because every member of IT handles and closes cases. That concludes the information technology update. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Very good. Questions?
Excellent. Very good.
Very good, thank you. Right, that completes our information items. Let's see. Anything open session? Anything for public session on any subject matter? Madam CEO, anyone sign up for that?
No, Mr. President, they have not.
All right, I believe we have no matter for executive session today. So that does complete our agenda.
Yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Motion by Mayor Bachi, second by Ms. Dumas. There's no objection. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.